Hi! I am so glad that you're here and that we can connect this way. I'm Dale Swanson, the founder of the GrowingAFather'sHeart.com and the creator of the Breathe Open Love formula for personal growth. And this is my blog, Glimpses of Love. We have so many relationships in our lives, with others, with ourselves, with the source of all love, and we want those relationships to go the very best that they can go. And the only way that those relationships can grow is through tiny little glimpses of love. And so I want you to pay special attention to this episode and to see which glimpses of love speak especially to your heart. How do we avoid making decisions that we should not make? How do we avoid making the decisions that we should not make? What am I getting at? Well, pay careful attention. I'm going to tell you a brief story, and you look for the parts that'll resonate with your life, the parts where you'll see a glimpse that might be helpful for you. So on this question, I'm taken right back to the day when my son was born. Brendan, who's 20 years old now and full of life and likes doing all these wonderful things, he also happens to have Down syndrome. And of course, he also would place somewhere on the autism spectrum. But Brendan is a character. He is so amazing in our family. He's got particular ideas on things and then is easygoing the next minute, loves to play, loves to tease us. Just a full-blooded member of our family who just loves being there with us. And we love him every bit as much. It's a great partnership. But on the day he was born, we were a little concerned because during the contractions and so forth, his heart rate was starting to stutter a bit and diminish a little bit, and that was causing great concern for us and the doctors. And so eventually there was an emergency cesarean. And so when he was born that way, then he came out, of course, totally worn out, just limp like a dish rag. And in the very best thing, they bundled him up and sent him up to the university hospital in the big city next door. So got Bev patched together and drove her up there, got her readmitted to that hospital, and there we were as a family in a hospital. Oh, it can happen anyway, right? But it is a bit of a challenge to be in an NICU, a neonatal intensive care unit. So if you, I hope none of you watching this have that personal experience, but if you know anyone who's there, please support them however you can, because it is a challenging time to be there amongst all of these life and death situations with all of these other infants while you're trying to care for your child. It's a challenging time for sure. So during that time, the doctors figured out some what was going on for Brendan, and it turned out not only did we have a wonderful baby boy, but he also happened to have Down syndrome. So as they were explaining a bit to us about that, we started to wonder about the future, and part of the policy of the hospital was that they would connect us with someone who was either working at the university hospital or someone that they knew of who was in a similar circumstance just some years down the road. Makes perfect sense. A chance to talk with another parent about how this might be, so we would have some sense of the future. So as we met with the man who worked at the university, who had a daughter, I think, in her teenage years, and also happened to have Down syndrome, she, as he was talking about the different stages of life, he wanted to really prepare us. So he kept focusing on the things that were different or and so forth. And so then he was talking about at this stage, we had sort of typically expected such and such, but it didn't happen that way. And so there was a bit of grieving as we let go of that. And then at this stage, we had sort of been expecting maybe such and such, but that didn't happen. So we grieved that. And then at this stage, and he was well-meaning to try and prepare us for all these possible outcomes, but as we thanked him for visiting with us, and after he left, we just collapsed in each other's arms in just a bundle of tears, because all of these things about the future that we didn't know how they would all play out. Would Brendan find love? Would he get married? Well, we still don't know that. Will he be interested in higher education? Well, not so much, but he's certainly enjoying the experiences that he's currently having at 20. But we're realizing things are growing for him and changing, and there's new experiences he's enjoying that are brand new, and so there's always change, there's always new. But back then, we had no way of knowing what this would be like for Brendan. And so these were some of those decisions that we should not be making. And we needed to avoid making them, even though that someone had come forward and explained a bunch of these possible outcomes. We needed to let go of that, and finally common sense broke through to us, and we realized the real question at this moment is, you've got a new baby boy as part of your family. Can you just pick him up and love him? Well, absolutely we could. And so that's what I would encourage any of you that might have a situation where you might have a special needs child in your life that's new to you, that you don't know how that's going to be, that experience of special needs. And well, the point is, there is a living child in front of you. Can you love them? And yes, you can. And when you are in that moment, and when you are with your child, when you breathe, take a deep breath, when you open to the fact that there is a beautiful child in front of you, regardless of any other descriptors or diagnosis or anything else, this is a living child to be honored and loved and taken care of. And that's what we focus on, and we avoid all those crazy decisions about the future, right? And it can grow from there, and as a second part, as I observed when I was working at the university, in my later years, we noticed that in the registration lineup, and as we were looking at some of the other universities and so forth, even for doctoral students, often there were parents coming through, helping their son or daughter who was a doctoral student, a student who has gone through the undergrad degree and has now completed master's, going on to doctorate. The parents were there helping them make decisions in the registration lineup. It seemed sort of odd to us, but as we talked to colleagues, we started piecing it out, and it was becoming more of a common occurrence. And the reason is that parents, caring so much for their child's ultimate well-being, got very intently involved in the decisions at grade 2 and in the decisions at grade 3, and before you knew it, the decisions that the child had had no experience in making by themselves became so large that they were scared of making them on their own. And so then the parents ended up with a full-time job longer than it should have been, helping their child make all of these decisions. And so that's what I want us to avoid, making those decisions. And so I would recommend to you that you need to think about the fact that we as humans, we learn through making mistakes. And our children are going to have to make mistakes to legitimately learn. That's the truth. And so if we try to take all of those challenges away, we end up circumventing the chance in a grade 2 level or a grade 1 level where they are a little nervous about something or a little scared about something, and we encourage them and we hear their feelings and we send them off with all of our encouragement and love, and so that they go and a little bit of trepidation and they make it through a decision or a certain trip or a certain experience at school, and they find that they can survive. And that gives them courage for the next grade and for the next grade, and it's just a building confidence, right? So that is what has to happen, that we have that building confidence, and that's the point of our structure as a family, is to prepare our children to be on their own, to have their own children someday, to have their own families. And they're going to have to learn to make mistakes and learn from them. And we'll have to share vulnerably some of the mistakes that we've made to tell them these stories. And some of those they'll learn from, and some of those they'll make the same darn mistake that we made. And that is just life. So as I talk about it, and what I'm hoping that you'll understand is, we're avoiding making those decisions we should not make, and we're just taking a breath. We're breathing. We're opening to our loved one, our child, in this particular circumstance, and we're just loving them to be who they are and to find their way, and to not diminish their growing independence by stepping in the way and making all the decisions for them so that it will be perfect. It will never be perfect. It will always be real. Breathe, open, and love. Find your way to give your children the best support so they can make their mistakes and learn and make this world a better place as well. So, the previous video I talked about taking a breath 5 times a day. How about 5 times a day while you're taking those breaths, you just give thanks for something about your children or about your friends' children or some loved one that you're aware of. Just give thanks for someone and what they're learning right now, and get used to supporting others as they become all they can be. And that is going to help everybody. Take care. Thanks for listening to this week's episode, and I'm hoping you paid special attention to the glimpses of love that are especially connected to you. And then I want you to take a deep breath, open, and find someone you can connect with and share this glimpse of love with. And encourage them to tune in with you to the next episode you can find at DaleSwanson.com, where you'll find my blog, Glimpses of Love. And please leave a comment there so that I can learn more about you and we can develop this into a two-way relationship. Thanks so much for being here.